What do your smart appliances, smart locks, and doorbells have in common? They belong to a collective group of items known as the Internet of Things. This refers to a network of connected devices and technologies that facilitate communication between devices and with the cloud. All the examples of the Internet of Things we know are both large and visible. Things we can handle and interact with. However, are there examples of these interconnected devices that are tiny and almost unseen, but can still communicate with each other? The answer to this question is yes. A good example of this is a relatively unknown group of interconnected, speck-sized sensors suspended in the air known as smart dust. So what is smart dust? How does it work? And how will this almost invisible and interconnected piece of technology change our lives? This piece of technology was cooked in a lab by researchers at the University of California, Berkeley. And it is basically a wireless network of tiny sensors that are almost the size of dust particles that can collect and transmit data independently from their environment. The beauty of this advancement in technology is in its size and function. Each dust particle in this interconnected system is known as a mote, which is about the size of a grain of sand. Functionally, each mote can detect external stimuli like light, temperature changes, movement, sound, chemicals, and air pressure. What's really special about what these guys do is that they detect these changes in real time while remaining suspended in the air. Currently, we gather data like this either with a single balloon or a cluster of balloons that can stay suspended in the air for days at a time. But if these balloons wander into areas where they aren't needed, it could lead to some serious showdowns between countries and even diplomatic backlash. This is what sets smart dust apart. It is super stealthy. And also, in keeping with the tradition of the Internet of Things where each device has a single function, these specks of dust have a singular function, which is data collection. They do carry out a wide range of tasks, though, like military support and agriculture, and they even function in internal medicine. Now, because of how powerful smart dust is, various governments and entities with deep pockets are falling over each other just to lay their hands on this very useful piece of technology. Why just governments and people with deep pockets? Well, because the projected market value for smart dust is about $400 million. So, as you can see, this piece of tech is not for everybody. But even though you and I can't afford it and it's not even available yet, it is still important to know how it works. Because if corporations and governments are on the waiting list for smart dust, then you can be sure that its use will definitely affect us. Let's find out more about what smart dust is and what it does. Smart dust was built to work just like every other IoT device. Basically, each dust particle maintains two-way communication, one with the other millions or even billions of dust particles that make up the system, and another with the command center, where it transmits all the data it collects. Obviously, this is an oversimplification, but it helps you get the general idea. Now, let's get a bit more complex. Remember that earlier I said each dust in this system is called a mote, right? Okay, so each mote is a small speck of dust measuring about 1 cubic centimeter or less, and each of these little fellas is like a complete computer. But do these tech-enabled specks of dust run on batteries, or are they powered by any special energy source? Well, each mote relies on several sources of power built into its system. It can be powered by thick film batteries or other energy harvesting technologies like photovoltaic solar cells, thermal capture, or ambient vibrations. Motes also have built-in circuitry that they use for integrated sensing and computing. So, when you release the smart dust into a target location, each mote does two things. One, it communicates with other motes using radio frequency, and two, it gathers its own data independent of the others and reports back to the central hub. That said, all new technologies ultimately aim to make life easier for humans. So, what areas of life will smart dust totally transform? Agriculture is definitely the first place where we can apply this amazing piece of technology, because the proper practice of agriculture requires a lot of information, like knowing the moisture levels and the nutrient content of the soil. You also need to monitor things like fertilization practices and irrigation, and finally maximize resources. Currently, it is difficult for farmers to have all this information in one place, but smart dust is a game changer for a reason. With this technology, Farmers will be able to monitor all the important data they need in real time. In other words, smart dust will enable farmers to practice precision agriculture. Smart dust will also make real-time environmental monitoring possible. Environmental data like air quality, pollution levels, temperature, humidity, and radiation can be tracked in real time, leading to informed ecological decisions. On top of that, smart dust can also go into the human body and harvest some important data. Imagine you're at the hospital for a checkup. Your doctor can utilize smart dust technology to check your vital signs, examine your body for signs of disease, and do other stuff. And you wouldn't even feel a thing. So, goodbye to needles and endless invasive diagnostic tests. Smart dust will give doctors all the data they need. It is like Fitbit but a million times smaller. Have you watched one of those sci-fi movies where the main guy developed a way to plug his brain into a computer? Well, we will be living in those movie scenes with smart dust. According to a roboticist who is an expert in developing brain-computer interfaces, smart dust will revolutionize brain-machine interfaces, allowing connections between the brain and external devices. Rather than being a biological tool, our brains will soon gain machine status, allowing us to plug them into machines and interact with them. In fact, the use cases of smart dust as implants are endless. Thanks to this new technology, people without limbs could have smart artificial limbs linked to the brain through smart dust. Right now, drone technology is the mainstay of military reconnaissance, but things will get more discreet and interesting with smart dust. We are talking about an unseen eye in the sky that gathers far more than even the best drone can gather. In other words, recon missions on steroids. But the unseen eye is not limited to spy operations. In logistics and manufacturing, assets need to be constantly monitored to reduce theft and ensure efficiency. What better way to do this than to have a small, non-obstructive eye embedded inside factories and shipping routes? That's right, smart dust comes to the rescue once again. But this new technology doesn't just save us money and make manufacturing more efficient, it also helps monitor infrastructure. Smart dust would give real-time information on the structural integrity of structures like bridges, roads, and buildings, thereby reducing the chances of disaster due to poor maintenance. But that's not the only kind of disaster smart dust prevents. We currently rely on certain data and sensors to prevent natural disasters, but sometimes these safety nets have failed and have led to some really devastating experiences. With smart dust, real-time data can help us detect these natural invaders early and prepare for them. So with the myriad of beneficial potential applications we've seen, smart dust is the real deal, right? Well, yes and no. Let's start with the positives first. The first advantage of smart dust is its size. This makes it suitable for use in places where other larger technology can't fit. So, basically, it can give you results without changing or affecting anything. Another thing the dust brings to the table is the elimination of wired connections, and, with them, the constraints of connectivity. This means that you can set up smart dust in off-grid areas where traditional technology is impractical. But perhaps the most important advantage of smart dust is its ability to provide real-time data. Many times, timely information and decisions are the line between life and death. So, the fact that smart dust can provide data in real time is its strongest suit. Nevertheless, there are still some aspects of smart dust that raise concerns. First is the fact that this piece of tech takes away our privacy. How do you feel about having a data-gathering, unseen eye in the sky that can gather real-time data on your life, even in off-grid areas? Such functionality gives the potential owners of this tech too much power and too much insight into our lives. With smart dust, we could pretty much lose the power of consent, as the technology can gather information about us without our knowledge. You can judge how well we will fare with this invisible big brother by how well government regulations have managed the problem of data selling. The truth is that with the regulation in place, it's going to be an uphill task. And unless something changes, we are not ready for this disruptive piece of technology. Secondly, the creators of smart dust claim that it will rely on a battery and other power harvesting techniques. This sounds great until it doesn't. We all know batteries need to be recharged regularly. But regular charging also wears batteries out, which could affect the operational lifespan of smart dust and lead to serious maintenance challenges. Apart from the battery, there's also the problem of harsh environments. Let's not forget that with the huge amount of data going into smart dust, the system will need a large and strong infrastructure to process it. How is that going to work? And then there are the environmental concerns. Is having millions of inorganic materials in the atmosphere good for the planet? Could it cause damage to the environment? Obviously, smart dust is a great piece of technology that could disrupt and revolutionize various aspects of our lives and world. However, like every new technology, it is a double-edged sword that could do as much harm as the good it offers if left unchecked. So it is up to the moneybags and government to use smart dust technology ethically when they do lay their hands on it. And yes, there are many great things they can achieve with this revolutionary technology, but can we trust them to use it ethically without infringing on our rights and privacy? Only time will tell.